everyone, and welcome back to Purple Noon, a podcast. I am Stephanie Conti, and I'm here with the girl you miss the most, your favorite, the best of Purple Noon, Savanna Lanausse.
It's too kind, bestie. How are you? I missed you. I missed
I
this.
missed you. I missed this. I missed you. Yeah, it's that fun game of like when they say they're busy and they're gonna come back soon. Are they gonna live up to that expectation? I always like to preface this, and it's like, if someone is out there like, they can't even stick to a schedule. She's in a master's program. By she, I mean Savannah, and I'm in a doctoral program. So we're doing what we can, guys. We're really doing what we can. I've been advised many times not to do the podcast by guidance counselors. They're like, "Oh yeah, what do you do? Do you work out?" And I'm like, "Oh, I run a podcast." And they're like, "That's not really what's recommended to do while you're in a program." But hey, we're here.
They
We've been
can't
here
keep us
for a
away.
while. They can't keep
Yes.
us back. They can't hold us back. But today we have an episode that we've been kind of putting off for a while because like we did like it was two collaborations recently, and go check those out. Are within the past like 4 episodes. We had from Criterion Collections David Blakesley on, and we also had from I believe it's the South China Morning Post. We had homeboy James, our beloved homeboy James, come on too, and I James Marsh, and I totally recommend you guys checking out those episodes because they were really fun
Yes.
to film. But yeah, alas, we are at Sunflower. So before I kind of break down what Sunflower is about, Savannah, this was a film that was your pickings, right? This was a film that you wanted to review, correct?
It was.
And is it because you had seen it before, or was it something that you were really looking forward to seeing? I don't remember. I know you love Sophia Loren, but I wasn't sure if this was. I don't think it's your favorite Sophia Loren film, but I couldn't remember if it was one you'd always had been wanting to watch, or if it was something that you've seen before and you adore.
I have seen this movie before. It came in a box set with, I believe it's Marriage Italian Style and Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. So this is maybe my second or third time watching this movie. I do really like this movie, and I'm very curious as to hear your thoughts as well.
Okay.
But I'm very excited to talk about it. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Sunflower is an Italian film, and I guess technically it's also because of how much of it was filmed in. It says a lot about Russia, but it actually was primarily filmed in Ukraine. But
Mm.
it is a film titled Sunflower that came out in 1970. It is about an Italian woman who goes on a quest to search for her missing husband shortly after World War II is over. And it is directed by Vittorio De Sica, and it stars none other than your the best duo Italy produced, um, and it's Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni at their finest. And um, so you discovered it in this box set and everything like that, and I guess we could start with you first. So like what what are your thoughts on this film? What like and maybe you might feel similarly to me, but probably when I got 30 minutes into this film I was like, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah. And I think that's like the beauty of it because I think we think the movie, and we'll get more into it as we talk about it. But one of the things I really found unique about this movie, it's such a unique story about war. And I think they do it very well by like displaying both people going through very different things and then having to deal with it separately. And then, of course, I think this is probably Sophia Loren's, at least in her top five performances, maybe even top three. Um, I think the film is very intelligent in ways it tells the story because we understand the the pain Sophia Loren is going through, but when we look at Marcello's pain, we also understand kind of what happened there. So I think this is a very unique World War II story, and I now there are parts of it that are silly and goofy, and we can get into that. However, I think for the most part. It's very well done, and I'm very disappointed that when Sophia Loren is talked about in her acting career, this movie is not really brought up. So I like this movie. How did you
Yeah,
feel about it?
I was surprised because I'm surprised that I hadn't heard of this. Like, there's
Yeah,
so many. Like, there's at least 5 to 10 Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni duo films, right? And I was
yeah,
surprised that I never really heard much about this one. But I guess maybe it's also because there could be favoritism, because when I think of Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni, I'm thinking romance, but I'm also thinking comedy. I more
yeah.
associate with them with like Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, and like Marriage Italian Style, and things like that that are a little bit more lighthearted. You really don't get to see them in this much more serious element. I do know that there is another film that they have, and it's in the Criterion Collection, but the name is escaping me, where I think it's
Um,
called A Special Day.
yes, and I don't like that movie, and it
I
should not
haven't
be
seen it. I own
Criterion.
it on DVD and I haven't seen it. And for it, no joke, I was just Googling Sunflower Criterion because I was like, wait a minute. Did I just pay for it on Amazon and I own the disc? I almost lost it because I thought, because they look older on the cover of A Special Day. So I was thinking, I was like, maybe was that Sunflower? But no, it was A Special Day. But this film, and I also looked up the difference. Like Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow came out 7 years before Sunflower. So there is a little bit like it's kind of impressive how much Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni kind of work together throughout the course of years. You would think that maybe it's like, oh, they were under some contract agreement, so they banged out like 5 films in like 2 years or something like that. But no, they had a very long withstanding work partnership, it seems.
No, that's
um
her work husband. Like I also think it's just because, and again, when you talk about dynamic duos in film, they're never brought up, and they did almost every movie together. And even in the movie you can tell like
every
the
major
chemistry.
film every major
Yeah,
film that they've pretty much done has been together.
the chemistry is off the charts. Even the way they like are sad with each other, the humor, they play off each other so well. It is insane how when we look at film history, these two aren't talked about. Also, very quick side note. So her husband produced a lot of these films, Sophia Loren's husband. I don't know how he sat there and watched that
Best
because I would be
crying and
having
throwing up, crying and throwing up, and he's looking away, or he's a freak and he's into it. Those are the only two things. He's either like, I like, look, as someone who has directed, and look, I'm not saying I'm Victoria De Sica level directing, okay? I cannot imagine telling my partner, yeah, see that woman over there? You're gonna do things that's gonna make me hate you tonight. You're gonna do things that's going to make me, just question the validity of our relation. I can't. And maybe Victorious DeSica is a better man than I could ever be because he's able to separate the art from life that much. But genuinely, I could never be anyone in that situation.
No, I am this. So her husband was actually, I don't think it was DeSeca. I think he was the producer. I think it was what's his name?
Oh,
What's his name?
Ponty,
Ponti.
not
So he
Ponty, not Conti.
Conti, but he produces. If you look at almost all the films she did with Marcello, I believe he's produced the majority of them. And then DeSecco just also directed most of them. So they were
Well,
also
I
like
thought
this
that she
team.
did have a relationship with Victorio De Sica at some point.
Maybe she did. Maybe it's I'm not.
I'm
I don't
googling it for
100%
validity.
remember. Yeah, because I don't know. Maybe I also would get them confused, DeSecca and Ponti. So I'm not sure, but I know they all work together in most of the films, the four of them.
Yeah. So I'm looking and seeing. I know they acted together too. Victorio De
Right.
Sica would actually. I was reading trivia earlier. He would act in a lot of. Oh wait! Hey, hey, hey! Sophia Loren recalls a beloved paisan, and she says that it says that they had a complex relationship. Okay,
That
so
that means they were, something
alrighty,
was
there
going
were,
on.
you
Yeah.
know, um,
What a weird group, but anyway.
Yeah, but I was reading that
Oh.
De Sica would actually have to act in order to pay for his movies. He didn't want to act, but he'd be like, "Just give me a gig so I can pay for my next film."
That's great.
But yeah, I also looked it up. Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni did way more films than I thought that they did together. They did
No, like,
17
yeah,
films.
that's crazy.
17. That's crazy. That's that's a marriage. That's a marriage. To
That's what I'm
do
saying,
like
how do you
the
not fall
amount
in
of
love?
work that the amount Bessie, I don't know. It's crazy to me. But overall, this from the major films of Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni that I do know, I don't think of films like this. I don't think of films as serious as this.
Right.
So it was really interesting to see them, because the first half of the film, or not even the first half, I'd say like the first part of the film, does start off like a traditional Sophia Loren, Marcello Mastroianni, where he's acting like a goofball. He can't get his hands off of her. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of innuendo, hints at sex of the wazoo, you know? Like, and I'm surprised, like,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, they're just smooching. He's touching chest. Okay?
No.
He's grabbing, he's reaching, he's feeling. Okay? As he does in every movie, by the way. Like, it's not just like, oh, this is the what every episode, every movie, every collaboration, they're filling each other up. But it starts off like a traditional duo film that I expect from them. And it takes a hard turn. And that hard turn is without any type of
Y
preface or any
yeah.
type of soft blow. All of a sudden, we just see Marcello Mastroianni as a madman in the street, wreaking havoc, trying to slice up his wife like the Joker. Okay? That took
So,
me by
I
surprise.
I I love the first part of the movie. It's probably my favorite part. The first 35 minutes of the movie is fantastic, and I think it's done on purpose because I really love how they show the audience how intimate and passionate their relationship got. So it was almost like intrusive, like you were saying with the touching. But it also erased any doubt for us to be like later on in the film, well, maybe they weren't as in love, or maybe things were done on purpose. Maybe, the tragedy was done on purpose. But the intensity this couple had was insane. And then the part like you're talking about where he's abusive, screaming in the street, and they put him in a loony bin
To avoid
was
war.
that was beautiful. Like, I think that is so funny, and I think it just is a testament to their love, and it's such a goofy way to share with the audience, like, "No, you thought this was, like, pretend, and he's gonna go off to war and forget. No, like, this was real." So,
Yeah.
I really, really think it's such a smart way to portray that, but yeah, the part where he's, like, screaming in the street, my favorite, and then, like, they get to the loony bin, and then they're just going at each other, they're just like, "Yes, we did
And
it."
then there's
It's
a hole in
great.
the Jesus Christ portrait, and then some freak at the loony bin is just watching them? What?
It's it's so random. It's so random. Yeah.
Like, can you imagine you've been just been fondled by your husband, possibly gone to the extent, right? And a man comes out and goes, "Look at that peephole over there that you missed, you fool. Look at it." Like, what? That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, it's so funny, and it's like I said, it's such a unique portrayal of like showing the audience like they're truly in love. They didn't need to do the whole like let me confess all the ways I love you. No, they did it I guess the
Yeah.
Italian way, which is
And
to
and
do
they
something
could have
insane.
totally left it ambiguous to where it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, did he really just do this so that way he could," like, they really cemented it. They didn't really leave room for maybe he just did this because remember in the beginning he's like, marriage is for suckers. I'm
Yeah.
never getting married. Women want me, everyone wants me and I'm just not for marriage." And then it literally cuts to them getting married within what 48 hours later,
Yeah, something like
some type of
that.
timeline, and they're like and she's like, "Oh," he's like, "I love you," and she's like, I still don't know if you actually love me or if you're doing this to have a 12-day, like, vacation, essentially." But then they go
Right.
through that whole, the the crazy loony scene and stuff like that. And it shows, it cements, oh no, like, unless he's just that much of a narcissist and doesn't
Yeah.
want to go to war, or, you know, that desperate, then he really must love and care for her.
Yeah.
However, I feel a little bamboozled. I feel a little
Okay.
deceived. I feel a little tricked. How are you going to portray a love of all loves and then crap on it? Crap on it and blame it on, of all things, World War II. Of all things, I was fuming at the end of this film. And you know what? And that's not like because I hated this film. I think like if a film can get me riled up, it's done something. And this film did something. But I didn't like what it did. I wanted a happy ending. I wanted them to be reckless. I wanted them to be carefree. But it goes to show how good something like that can be, because I cared too much, in fact.
Yeah.
Too much about the fate of these two characters that were written, God, 50, 60 years ago. I cared way too much. I got emotionally invested. And
Yeah.
I was like, she's going to get her mans. She's gonna get her mans. And I was wrong. And I was an idiot. And I felt ashamed. I felt like an idiot. And it's it's once again a testament to a film that can do that to you is awesome. Like, deliver the power, whether or not you like the ending or not. It's a testament to how well it was crafted. Um
No, 100%. I think essentially, if for those who maybe haven't seen the movie or want spoilers, he ends up going off to war and it's not clear, but he gets some kind of amnesia and then he makes a new life for himself.
I don't believe it. I think he just woke up to a pretty Russian girl who, first of all, how the hell do you fall in love with someone you don't even know how to communicate with? I know people have done it. I know the 90-day fiance thing. I know people have done it before, but I just, and maybe because I'm just, personality means something to me. But how do you just wake up from the snow and you're just being fed borscht or whatever soup that they're serving back in the day? Probably like cabbage. It's got to be cabbage soup during the war. You've essentially and technically, and I'm not trying to step foot in any water here. I'm not trying to defend any sides, nay, Italy in this scenario,
Yeah.
but technically, what if I was a soldier in World War II and I woke up, but instead of, I think her name is Svetlana. I forgot her name. It's like a Svet something. Let me
Hmm.
look up her name before I'm just being rude. I'm pretty sure it was like Svet. No, her last name is Savleva, the actress who plays her. Her name is Masha. Mascia, Masha. So,
Masha.
but if instead of waking up to Masha, I was waking up to Heidi or some other German name, it'd be a bit of a different story.
Yeah, no, yeah. Look, this is where I say it gets a little goofy silly because my only problem with this movie, right, is the fact that there's a really great scene on Sophia Loren's part where she finally sees her husband after so many years, and I don't think it could be that long because she's still young enough to go on and meet somebody else, and we'll get into that as well. But
I
he
think what the
remembers her.
timeline had to be within 5 to 10 years.
Yes, he remembers her though. And my thing is, there had like I don't believe the whole like they didn't do it well if this is what they were trying to do either. Like, oh, my memory came back. At some point within the 5 to 10 years, he must have remembered her. And my problem with that was you couldn't pick up a phone, you
You
couldn't write
couldn't
a
pick up a
letter.
phone. You couldn't have taken a train. The war had ended. Your mother. You didn't even go and
This
see your
woman waited
mother.
5 to 10 years for you, like every day, going to the train
You
station with
prioritize her during the day of your wedding, and you're like, oh my God, my mother, she left me 24 eggs on my doorstep. Oh, and I missed her. Oh, I'm so stupid. You're going to pull that stunt and then just not see her for 10 years because you're being fed borscht. I
That's what
don't
I'm
know.
saying.
I don't know if
This
it's
gets
borscht too. I'm gonna
goofy.
look it up. I have a deep feeling it's borscht. I think that's like the red soup.
That's where it gets goofy and silly for me because it's like, dude, I know you remembered
It
us
is
before.
borscht. Okay, I'm borscht. It is.
No, so I think I could appreciate the story, the unique story of like the war, like, oh, well, this woman waits patiently for her husband. Like, I understand that part. And I do understand also he must have been going through it in the war. I'm not taking that away from him. And I liked seeing both sides. However, I thought they could have put a little bit more effort into his story on why he didn't come back when he remembered or said something, because I'm not buying that he, and it's just for me that would be lazy also if they're just like, oh, his memory came back when he saw her. No,
Yeah.
because she
No.
also, the woman, his wife, she knew who she was. When she showed up, there was just like, oh yeah, I know who
Yeah,
you
she
are.
heard the stories.
That's
She
what I'm
heard the
saying.
tale. Like she was known. I also it just tore me up that she went all over Sophia Loren's
I
character went
know.
all over Moscow and she's showing a picture of her husband. She don't speak the language and everyone's like, "Yeah, he's buried here." And she's like, "No, he's not." And all she does is she goes into a little village at like a local church and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's up there. Yeah, he's over there." Like, what?
That poor woman got gaslit. But I think Sophia Loren did such a wonderful job of showing a unique way to grieve, because how many times have we seen like the grieving widow in movies, right? She does it so differently where it's sort of like this resilience in her of like, no, like I'm gonna keep going, like I'm mourning, but like I can't settle with this.
Yeah.
And she does it in a way that's so unique. And again, I think Sophia Loren is just one of those people that like could really morph into, and I think you've made comments about how she really played what she knew. She was a child in World War II. Um, and a lot of her films are just based off of people she knew in her childhood or things she's been around.
Yeah, she was
So
very good with that. Like she
yeah,
often said that she felt like her best roles were when she played versions of people that she grew up with and stuff. That's why she always, and she wasn't from a wealthy, prominent area of Italy. Like she
right.
was, she had like prostitute for nannies. And I even think possibly her mother or maybe someone in her family was in that type of light as well, and that's why she always played, because she wanted to show like the level of humanity and the level of like complexity behind those type of people. And just I think her best scene is what you're saying exactly, but I just love when she gets on the train
Yes.
and just after all these years, like it's so funny because she thought the worst case scenario was him being dead
Yeah.
and she didn't realize that this was a possibility. I didn't even realize because I'm like, he'd be stupid. He'd be stupid to do this.
100%.
And look, like, I get things happen, and maybe if they had taken the angle of, hey, met this woman, one night stand turned into a family,
Yeah.
and I could understand that, but everything seemed desired and like everything fit into place and like he got a job at the factory like it's
Yeah, this man's like put his roots down.
once again also I don't understand the complexities of war enough how they let him do that.
I don't know.
He was an enemy.
So again, I think this movie can get goofy and silly. Another thing that I think, again, I really like this movie, but I do see the flaws in it, of course. I think when they were writing Sunflower, they were writing a Sophia Loren film, 100%. And I think because
Yeah,
of that, they lacked on Marcello's side, because his character seems to like kind of have contradictions if you think about it, because he's in love with Sophie in the beginning. And again, they solidify that by the loony bin scene. But then when he goes back, he goes back to Italy after the train meeting goes, haywire. And when she says she doesn't want to see him, he meets with a prostitute. And it's like, my guy,
yeah,
what are you doing? You got two women begging you to stay or like wanting to see you. And you do that because you can't get your way in that moment. So I think his character just struggles a little bit in having like
yeah,
some
and I
moral
think
ground.
they lightly tried to show that element of him not knowing what he really wanted until he
Sure.
had it type
Yeah.
thing from the beginning. Oh, I don't want to marry a woman. Two days later he's married.
Yeah.
Like I think they tried to show that, but you don't you didn't think, or at least I didn't think, that it would run as deep as like literally the first woman that I would see in Russia.
Yeah.
The first woman
Yeah.
is where I laid my Italian roots in this potato field. And it's which is still just so baffling to me. Also, it's look, I know this film is from, I think it was 1970. Like, I get it, but part of me was like, that girl is so young compared to everyone else, and it made me feel things. It also was like, of course, you went for the young girl, the clearly young girl.
Well,
Like,
I think that was like,
she
yeah.
looked at least 10 years younger than both Marcello Mastroianni and Sophia Loren. She was so baby faced.
No, I think that was the point though, because in the scene where she's saving him from the snow, right? She has like braids. And I know that's like traditional Eastern European like look, but I do think there's a reason why they picked somebody so significantly younger too.
Yeah.
Because if I'm being honest, also, I don't see a lot of one, a lot of women who would have been an appropriate age probably was married. And then two, I don't see a lot of like women at the appropriate age going into the snow and saving a soldier. Like that's something a young girl would do, personally.
Yeah, it makes sense too because technically, once again, we're getting into the complexities of war. He would have
Yes.
been an enemy. So
Yes.
that's so, and this also kind of made me plunge into the complexities of World War II because it, like I know, like, because I was like, okay, but at the time, Russia was against, the
Like the
the
Soviet Union,
yeah.
yeah.
No, it was the Soviet Union. Yeah, Soviet
Yeah.
Union was against Nazi Germany, so he's going and fighting over there. And then I was like, oh yeah, Italy was part of the.
Okay, you know what, Steph? I was confused about what was going on. And I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
Because in the loony bin scene, when they get caught, did you notice he does the Nazi symbol?
Yes,
So what well, whose side were they on at this point? I
I.
didn't know. I didn't
That's
know.
that. Okay, so and I had looked it up too. So apparently, there has been a lot of whitewashing's not the term, but it's the term I'm going to use, or just washing, just general washing, of history of World War II, and one of them being that a lot of Italy's crimes were downplayed. Because, like, look, we talk about World War II. Who's enemy number one? Germany.
Yeah, no,
Who's
Italy
enemy
was
number two? Japan? Maybe? And then enemy number three, we don't know. But it really is Italy. And so I was reading an article from like 2010 about a Jewish Italian woman who had escaped from World War II and pretty much had gone to a Holocaust museum, and she had her story and was like, "Hey, you should be asking a lot more, Italian Jewish people what they
Yeah,
went through, because I think you're missing a lot of, like, she's like, it wasn't as bad as like maybe like what Poland saw,
right.
but it wasn't okay either. So
Yeah.
it wasn't
So
all dandy and stuff like that. Like, there I did see, and it could be a higher estimation now because, it's been 13 years since that article came out, but it did say that it was estimated like 8,000 Italian Jews were shipped from Italy to places like Warsaw. And so it's a very filming, and film during, like, not far away from that time too, is it's very difficult and is very tricky, and it requires a lot of balances. So
I mean, I'm
I
glad I guess they didn't just like cuz Italy did end up switching sides very quickly. I my grandma was a kid during that time
mhm.
and the stories she has about just Mussolini because she was around like I forget where in Italy she was, but she was a kid and the stories she has about like Mussolini's reigns are
Mhm.
absolutely and like the Hitler connection are absolutely like horrific. And I agree with you like nobody really talks about like yeah, because I don't think
Well,
people
and
talk about it
Italy
because
was going through like a lot
yeah,
without it, like, it wasn't necessarily the time of all times for them. It wasn't easy to be under Mussolini's, regime and everything like that.
no, but I think like I think you are right in the sense of like we don't talk about the fact that Italy at one point was like in I guess
We're
cahoots
cool with this.
with
And, like,
Hitler and then
apparently
changed their mind and then
that
they're just like we're leaving.
anti-Semitic laws actually began in, like, I was shocked at, like, to a point where even like Jewish children were not allowed to go to public school
Yeah.
in Italy in the late 30s.
No, it was bad. I mean, there's a beautiful film. Like, I think it's literally called Life is Beautiful and it's have you seen it?
I've heard so many things about it. I think I know exactly. It's A Beautiful Life, right?
Life is yeah, something like that. And it's I only seen it once. I never want to see it again because I cried a lot. But
Yeah,
it's
Life is
essentially about
Beautiful.
an Italian man and a Jewish Italian man and his child end up going into the camps, and he tries to make it seem like a game so his kid's not scared. And it's a really beautiful film, but it does talk about like what happened in Italy during the time when Hitler and Mussolini were like, hanging out, I guess, and getting together. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I
it's
agree.
complex, and I feel like, like it's especially from like a United States standpoint, where sadly in our education system we're kind of taught things very one sided, and I'm sure that goes for a lot of more modernized countries too.
Sure.
But like I had no idea about Russia's involvement in the war, until genuinely, and audience members may laugh at me for this, may think I'm silly, genuinely until I watched Come and See.
See, I didn't know about like I knew Japan was not a good country and they were doing some things, but I didn't know how horrible like the Japanese were in that side of the world. Like to the Koreans and the China, like it's crazy how much
Yeah.
we have to fill in the gaps as we get older. Because truthfully, in our education system, we only heard about like ourselves
Yeah.
and the United States role in World War II. So
Well, and it's so funny because a lot of stuff that like we love and know today, like especially from Japan and like from countries
yeah,
and stuff like that, were actually kind of like there was a demand to kind of have everyone forget about those things. So one of my favorite things, Hello Kitty, was actually made to boost like sales and the economy for Japan, and help them recover from the war, because Hello Kitty was first made in the 70s, and Japan was still trying to recover from things.
yeah, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy to think about.
But
Yeah.
I there's and I understand maybe Deseka not wanting to touch those complex issues, where it's like, hey, technically you married what you would have considered the enemy, but at the end of the day, this is a film that's made in the 1970s, so maybe he thought that there just wasn't a point in pointing out the pragmatics of that type of relationship.
I guess not because the point of the movie is more about this married couple that was kind of like torn apart because of choices and war rather than like the inside out of like what war causes. I think the war is more used as like sort of like a backdrop almost like a tool to keep the story going, but I don't
Yeah.
think the war is the point. So I don't think he probably made the decision to be like, no, we're really not gonna get into
I
this.
will say I do really appreciate Deseka's choice in how he filmed the war scenes. I
Yeah.
loved there are these moments where it seemingly has like a red flag draped over the screen during filming, and I absolutely loved how it looked. And it's funny because I actually looked, I was like, is this a Deseka film or a Rossellini film? Because the war parts of it definitely felt very like Rossellini inspired, like that type
Mm.
of, harsh cinema and stuff. And I gotta give it to Marcello Mastroianni though, for because look, you can't fake snow like that back then, not to
No.
that degree. So I could only imagine how difficult it was to actually film in those temperatures and to do what he was doing and just lay in cold snow for like minutes at a time and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Dedication.
so
Um,
I really appreciate those scenes and those glimpses, and also how it was serious, because I think if it was comedic, it might have crossed that line of like
yeah,
distastefulness.
yeah, I agree. Um, so I wanted to ask you 2 things.
Yeah.
One, what do you think about the ending of the movie?
Okay.
Yeah.
I What I had hoped, what I had wanted, I wanted to be selfish. I wanted them to abandon their kids, and I wanted them to flee to the country. I wanted that for them.
Leave them, kids. Leave them.
But it wasn't until like, because like he's like, I love you, I want to be with you, let's do this and stuff like that. And his daughter's eating borscht in Ukraine, in
Yeah.
USSR and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So it's like, okay, she's in good hands. But I was like, come on, like, Sophia, just take his hand and go. Leave in the night. Your husband's
I
working. He'll
can't.
never
I
know.
can't.
Just do
I
it. But
can't.
then we hear the baby cry, which, okay, first of all, we hear a baby cry, and then we're showed a 3-year-old. Get it?
No, I
What?
don't know what that
That was
was. Yeah.
ridiculous. I was expecting a newborn. And even still, I was like, he's 3. He's practically a man in Italy in the 70s. You know? No, no, no. But like, it was, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, this is never gonna work. This is never gonna
See,
work.
I have a similar feeling, but a little bit different.
Ooh,
I
okay.
wish there were no kids, and
Same.
she said no because she has worth and she needs to move on. Because I wanted her to say
Stronger
no
than
because
me.
she wanted to say no. Well, like, okay, I think of it like if my husband did that to me, what do I do? Like, what's to say he's not going to do that again? And I understand like amnesia in the war, but like, I also can't. There's just something about like you were like literally married to another woman, having a whole relationship. We're not, in my opinion, that's very hard to move on from. I wanted her to say no because she wanted to move on with her life, and she spent so many years at the train station just, please, where's my husband? Went to Ukraine, spent
Yeah.
money. She was a widow, and I don't even know where the money came from. I assume like they were, I
Bro,
don't
she
know
didn't
how it
even
worked.
have a hotel. She didn't even
That's
have a
what I'm
hotel. Where
saying.
was she was just
She went
pedaling through the streets with a
by
photo.
foot, by foot. So my thing is, at that point, I feel like that woman went through enough, and I don't mind the ending. I don't think the ending is horrible. I think there's a lot of good emotional acting from both actors, and it's fine. But I was just hoping for a little bit more of like, no, I waited for you for a long time. And it turns out you were doing something else. You were happy with another family. Even if you thought about me once in a while, I was suffering. I had to stay with your
I got
mom.
2 more things to add. I got 2 more things to add. 1,
Yeah.
he needed to jump on that train. Even if he got wounded, even if there was an accident, he needed to jump on that train. 2, why did it take him so long to go to Italy? Because
Well, no,
reality
there's
is, she had a freaking 3-year-old.
no, but like that's my issue is that he didn't call her
You're
the
talking.
entire time. And then
Not even when she didn't know he was alive. I'm talking about the
that's
minute
what
she
I'm
knew she was
saying.
alive. He didn't try to find her the next day. No,
Yes.
he went home, he ate borscht, and he went on with his life for 3 goddamn years, Savannah. And then, probably when he started noticing that his lady got a little bit older looking, was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Italy. I'm tired of borscht.
But that's what I'm saying. It's so insane because it's such a contrast from like I believe like the beginning was real. Like I do believe they had this intimate, passionate relationship. There was no faking it there. But the goofy, silly part about this movie, and I will die on this hill, is that this man didn't call this woman for years and then saw her, didn't do nothing again, decided to go to Italy because I think the thing was like his mom's not doing, I don't know what happened, why he decided to do that. And then when he gets there and she doesn't want to see him, which is her right, by the way, after all those years, he goes with the first woman he finds and maybe try something. It's just this guy is making bad choice after bad choice. So I
Also,
was hoping, yeah, yeah.
unpopular opinion, he was weak during the war. He was
My
weak.
thing is, if we're
He literally
if we're
fell in the snow,
playing,
was like, I guess I'll die.
but if we're playing this, oh, I have amnesia, I don't know what I'm doing. You're still Italian. You're speaking Italian. So my issue is also like, you're not Russian. You have to. My
You're
whole thing is
still
like,
going by, you're the only man in Ukraine going by Antonio.
and your wife is speaking Italian in a Russian. Like my thing is, you didn't go and try to find out. I understand, like back then it would have been hard, but you couldn't write a letter or anything or like try to leave with your wife.
Nothing. You couldn't call your mother. You didn't call your mother. You didn't call your wife. You didn't call your brothers and sisters. You didn't do any of it. Like,
Nothing.
he's no. He was like, this life is for me. Also, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mesty, but the way that they showed Ukraine versus the way that they showed Italy, my God, if I was him, I would have been like, I can't be here. They were by factories.
They okay.
They were by, no joke. I think that was because in Ukraine, I believe Chernobyl was in Ukraine. That had to be. That had
So
to be. I'm telling you right now,
Giuseppe
that's the Minsk
definitely
province. That's the Minsk province.
Diseko is definitely trying to make a point about Ukraine. 100%. That place at the time with the snow, they did not make it look appealing.
No.
for the season and the time. I just wanted this ending to be, and it's fine. The ending is decent. I think what makes it is Marcello and Sophia. But I was just hoping after all of this, and I understand, oh, I love you, but you could have still been like, I love you so much, but this is beyond what any person would have done in their lifetime. And you abused that, and I'm gonna go live my life with my new husband who loves me very much, and we have a kid, or we don't have a kid. Maybe they don't have kids. I don't want them to have kids. I'm going through this. Yes, I don't want them to have kids. I'm gonna live with my new husband.
Let's work on this
We're
together,
gonna
bestie.
we're gonna
Tell
run
me how you
away
feel.
with my new husband, and then I'm gonna have kids. Then I will have kids after I reject you into the ground. So that's what I wanted to happen. I wanted her to be like, I'm done with this. But instead they went in a direction of like, I will always love you, which is fine. It stays on theme. It
I'll
does make
cry at the
sense.
train once more, and then I'll cry when you're dead. Like,
It's just one of those things where like you could have still like she could have still said I love you, but I'm not going to do this anymore. You could have still had that
I
same
love you,
effect.
but I love myself more. Like, it could
She
have been
lives her
one of
new life.
those.
She got her hair done. She was looking great.
She
No
looked
more
great. Yeah,
grieving.
she looked 10 years younger. Oh my god, when she was grieving for over him and looking for him, she looked horrible. Love her, but she
Yeah.
looked horrible.
So
Um,
I was just hoping it would go in a different direction, but it's okay. It's not
you know,
horrible.
look, I think they also could have, like, can you imagine, bestie, if this film was done by a mad Frenchman in the 70s?
Oh
Holy
no,
crap.
there would have been some blood.
It'd be another woman next door. They should have just killed each other at the end. That's how the French would end it. The
No.
French would do the sensible thing, have them take a 9 milliliter to each other.
But there were kids involved. Again, I think
It
some of
don't
these
matter to
themes
the
could have worked.
French. They're
No,
crazy.
no, the French are
Look,
brutal.
there were kids involved in the woman next door, bestie.
Yeah, those people were mentally ill though. Like it, it got beyond that.
But if you
Um,
want to show like war, like if you want to show like you could have gone that way, you know?
sure, I agree.
I
I
think they
think
should have had a traditional French ending, and I think that they should have killed each
we
other.
could both agree that the kids were kind of a cop out. That's what we could agree.
Yeah, it's like because now you're gonna look at Antonio Jr. and resent him for the rest of your life. Like, do you not like?
Yeah.
Do people not realize that? Where it's like, oh, I
That
have a
was weird
kid.
too. Why would you name him Antonio with when you had a kid with another man? That was weird, but I don't know.
Yeah,
He's
like
like, "Did you
that's
name him after me?" And she goes, "No." And it's like, "Girlfriend, who else
no. I
would you
named
name
him
him
after the saint. Okay,
after?
all
Yeah,
right,
right. It's cool.
alrighty. But yeah, like it's also, but like imagine that it's like you grow up with strains, like with your relationship with your mother because she named you after her former lover who left her. And, like
Her
that's a
former
lot of weight to carry.
husband.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
That's a lot of weight to carry. And so that may bestie option number one that we already go back abandon the kids.
I don't think we should abandon the kids. The kids did nothing. I just think there should have been no kids.
They're in
But
the
now
way.
that we've yeah, I think it's just a cop out. Now that we've flamed the parts of the movie we don't like, I did want to ask you, what is
Yeah.
your favorite part of the movie?
Oh man. My favorite part of the movie, like I said, I really did enjoy how those war scenes were filmed. But I still can't get over how ridiculous Marcello looked. There were like a
Yeah.
100 men being able to walk forward, and they were fine, and he just fell backwards. There was a man bleeding from a head injury on a horse,
Yeah, it's
struggling to
crazy.
keep awake, and Todio just falls back into the snow, no injury, and goes, "I guess I'll die here."
This is it.
Um,
This is it.
yeah. But in terms of besides the war scene and how it was filmed, I have to agree with you that first 30 minutes were just awesome. Like when it just felt like another, and I say typical, but I don't mean it in a bad way, but just another typical element of what you would see from Marcello and Loren at their Sophia Loren at their best, which is them
Yeah.
being a couple very free spirited and very like it feels like they're being just themselves, and it's just because of how well their chemistry is. Once again,
Right.
I'd be having night terrors if I was Carlo Ponti, or even well, because Marcello Mastroianni at the time was married to a very prominent actress. Oh,
Right.
crap. What's her
I don't
name?
know her name.
Catherine Deneuve.
He was
Yeah.
married to Catherine Deneuve?
I'm pretty sure I'm Googling it right now.
What a marriage. What do you mean? I didn't know this juicy piece of gossip. What happened?
Okay. Wife. Let's see. Looks like okay. Yeah, I think he had different.
I think he was married multiple times, no?
Yes.
What am I
So,
thinking of?
oh, okay. So 2 years after this film, so he was married to an actress in 1950 named Flora Carabella, and in 72 he created a media scandal by separating from his wife to live with Catherine Deneuve. And Catherine Deneuve and him have a daughter, and she's an actress.
What?
Yeah, her name is
Catherine
Chiara.
Deneuve? What?
Chiara
So
Mastroianni.
did they get married? This is crazy. I didn't know
I'll
this.
look it up right now. I'll look it up. Let's see. I know it says I think he got married a few times.
Catherine Deneuve.
So he actually did not remarry. He was also with Faye Dunaway.
What?
Faye
This
Dunaway,
man was out here.
um, Catherine Deneuve, and then what's I think an Italian film director named Anna Maria Tato.
Dude, that is crazy. Catherine Deneuve? Oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
can't get
you
over
didn't know
that.
that?
No, that's a scandal. That's gossip. That's crazy.
Yeah, they also, like I said, had a kid together too.
This
Um,
man was doing sunflower in real life. Oh my gosh.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much actually. Dang. Let me see. How many kids does he had? Is he in like a Brando situation where he just had like
Oh
16
no, I hope
kids?
not.
He has two
Marcello.
kids. When was the first one? First kid, let's see. Is this like changing everything for you?
Yes.
So he
Yes,
did
it
have a
is.
kid with his first wife.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Flora Cabela, they had one daughter together named Barbara. They formally separated in 1964 because of his affairs with younger women.
Oh no.
Then, while he was still married, he wanted to marry and have Dunaway wanted to marry him and have children with him, but Mastroianni, a Catholic, refused divorce. Okay, bro.
Come on. You're sleeping with everybody and
And Dunaway waited for him to change his mind, but left 2 years into the relationship once she realized that he wasn't going to. Um, and then, uh, yeah, like yeah, he had a daughter with Catherine Deneuve, who was nearly 20 years younger than him.
that is oh no. Oh my gosh. Why was everybody doing this at the time? I'm disappointed. Disappointed,
Yeah.
frankly. But I don't know what else I was expecting from this person. I don't
Apparently,
know.
he also did have, like, he was with Anuka Me, Claudia Cardinale, and
Stop.
Ursula Andress, he was also with.
Who wasn't he with?
Girl,
Who?
girl, who knows? Who
Sophia?
knows at
Because
this
that's
point?
looking unlikely now. That's
I'm
looking
surprised.
unlikely to me that
Who
nothing
knows?
happened there.
I have
Oh,
no idea. But yeah, yeah, and even Chiara Mastroianni said that she only ever saw her parents on screen together, never in real life.
that's crazy. Those poor kids.
That is
Ugh.
insane. But yeah, so he was about to live through his sunflower, 2 years before all of this. Can you
That's
imagine
nuts.
being Faye Dunaway though, and waiting for this man to divorce his wife, and you're like, fine, I'm done, only for him 1 year later to get with an even younger woman, have a kid with her, and then finally divorce.
No, yeah, that's
Also, just love the irony where it's like, "Ugh, we're Catholic, we can't divorce. Hold
what
on. I need to
what
sleep with women 20 years younger than you
what
while we're
moral high
married."
ground do you have at that point? That's so funny to me. Do you think God's gonna be like, "Oh, I can forgive the
He's a
15,000 women you slept
man.
with,
He has urges and
but you
needs.
didn't get divorced? Good
Whatever.
my list. Check like that that's such a crazy that's such a crazy mindset to have. I cannot. I'm disappointed. What can I say? I don't know what I thought. Personally, I thought maybe he was like a one kind of wife guy. I was wrong, and now I have to live with this.
Oh, he plays what he plays, you know? Like, I mean, look, have you ever seen a film of him where he was the straight-laced husband?
True.
No, he's always it's very flirtatious. He's always been the Casanova.
Ugh. Well, now I cannot like his character even more though, so that's good. Um,
uh
but yeah, I dude. So, do you like the movie? Do you
I
feel like
do. I
okay,
really
good.
did enjoy it because, like I said, to get me to go through all those emotions is
Yeah.
not a lot of movies do that for me lately. I was actually kind of venting to my boyfriend recently how
Mm,
it's been difficult, like even to like sit and watch newer things because I'm having a hard time finding things and I understand like watching something just for the enjoyment of it, but even
sure.
like that, it's hard to find things that and maybe I'm just picky, maybe it's a me thing, but I just feel like I have a lot harder time connecting to films than I
Sure.
did within the past like even 3 years, I'd say. Um
Yeah.
but it's nice to see and also too like I was also telling him how look, I've been and I know in reality this isn't a long time, but I've been kind of teaching myself film since I was a kid, since I was like 12.
Mhm.
So I've had books on Italian cinema since I was like 13. No
Mhm.
joke. I've bought textbooks and stuff because when, and this was when I was like, I'm going to go to NYU and I'm going to become like the most successful film director ever. My whole philosophy was I have to know everything before I go into school. Like
Mhm.
I knew like school at like in film school it wasn't to learn really, it was to do things. It was to be able to have those resources. So I
Right.
felt like I had to do a lot of work. And you've seen like I have like ridiculous amounts of film books and things like that, like crazy ones. Um and I've read majority of them. And so the thing is when you do all that within a 10-year span and you kind of go through a lot of stuff, you kind of sit and wonder, okay, what's left for me to discover? And films like this show me, hey, this is one of them. This is one of them.
Yeah.
There's still a lot more to cover. It's kind of like when you go, I know every planet and I know every moon in our solar system. It's like, hey, buddy, guess what? There's like a crap ton more of solar systems that you don't even know of. And that's kind of what it's like. I've been playing Starfield. So that's why I made the solar system reference. But yeah, so it's nice, and I also felt that way, and I have to remind myself I felt that way about video games for a long time, and I decided to go back into things that I missed, either because I wasn't around, I wasn't alive,
Yeah.
or I was just too young to be a part of. And so I think that's really a big beauty about this podcast is kind of being able to go and look at like time capsule type stuff, reflect
Right.
on it today, but also just see something that maybe because this is probably not something we'd see within the past 10 years of film. This is
Sure.
just not this isn't a winner anymore. This isn't a box office. And
No, it's not. Yeah.
this was of course and we're talking about a movie that was made because it just wanted to be made, not necessarily because of how much money it would make overall.
Right. Right.
So it's nice to dive into that and everything, and to experience like a nice breath of fresh air in something I felt like I knew so much of. So
For sure.
it's nice, and I'm really happy that I watched this movie. In terms of rating, um, I'd say that there are some things that like I think although it couldn't be hammered in, I do think some of the complexities of war could have been touched on a little bit, especially when it is such a heavy theme that could have been worked in a little bit more. But strong performances, um, really great plot twist. I was not expecting him at all to just have a family. Because that just seemed silly to me. I was like, of course not. No, he'd be silly. And he was silly for that. I probably give this a film like an 8 out of 10. I was very impressed with it.
Oh, good. Yay. Um, I probably would go a little bit higher for me, probably like an 8.5 out of 10. I really appreciate um Sophia Loren's performance here. I think she does something entirely new when it comes to like the grieving widow. And she makes being angry and numb and like tired look completely new on screen. So I really appreciate her. I like the story in general. I think it is an 8.5 because of the goofy, silly moves this movie decided to do with Marcello's character and some of the choices. I wish it had a little bit of an ending, a different ending. But overall, I thought the pacing was good. I really, really loved the first 30 minutes of the movie. I actually also love the actress that plays the Ukrainian wife. I thought she did a good job of just being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
And being
sorry."
able to stand out, amongst
Yeah,
two legends is excellent on her part.
she held her own for sure. So I appreciate those things. I wish the story was a little bit different. So I'll give it 8.5 out of 10. I already own it. Um, and I do think it belongs in the Criterion. I
I
100% think the
do. Yeah.
Criterion
This
thanks
I
for.
I was actually surprised that it wasn't. I saw that it was on the Criterion channel, but not entirely in the collection, which I think that this deserves a spot in the collection for sure, especially if something like Sunflower and Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow are in there. I think this is well. Oh no, it's Marriage Italian Style that's in there. I think this is extremely well deserved of a Criterion title. I pulled up a little before we sign off. I pulled up a little thing here, and I think maybe this was not known information at the time, but once again, this could have been something added in, or maybe reflected on or talked about, and maybe it was, and we just don't see like the news articles and the commentary on the filming and things like that. But apparently, per Master Oyani's biographer, his mother, on her deathbed, revealed to Marcello Mastroianni that she was not Italian, that she was a Jewish immigrant that escaped from Belarus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and had never told him that he was of
That's
Jewish descent until her deathbed.
that's
Yeah.
wild. Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
That is very crazy, and that's also a coincidence, big something to reflect on and stuff. And I wondered if maybe that had any, and like I said, I don't know when his mother passed, but I wonder if maybe this had any sway in his desire to wanting to make a
Oh
film like this
yeah.
that touched on the subject.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
So very interesting.
Yeah.
But and it's so crazy too for someone who's like, when you think of like Italian actors, he's up there. And to think
Yes.
that maybe there's a possibility, and it didn't mention if his dad was Italian or not, that maybe he might not be fully Italian after all is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow, that's wild. I didn't know that.
But I think I got through a little bit of it, but I do have a biography on Marcello Mastroianni if you're ever curious and you ever want to read
Oh yeah, I'm curious about how he decides to sway this in terms of his
it.
his affairs. We'll see.
Yeah. It was
I
it
am
was like,
curious.
I think it was I think it's the one where cuz this is one where he didn't write it. He got a
Ah, gotcha.
biographer to write it for him and everything.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Also, fun fact about Marcello Mastroianni, he is related to the actor Richard Conti, and I've always been hoping that I'm related to
Ooh, like
Richard
secret
Conti.
connection.
Yeah, so I could
Yeah.
have a secret connection to that. But I don't think so yet. I don't think so. I don't have any confirmation on it.
Hey, we love it. That's what we're gonna say at Purple Noon.
But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We appreciate it. As always, please check out all the links below. We have some other fun stuff coming up. Our 100th episode is going to be coming up soon, and we do have things planned for that, which I'm excited for you to see. We were also talking about some other potential things that probably will be happening soon on the channel, just some fun little stuff to add, as well as some stuff that'll finally be added to the Patreon. So keep an eye on that. We're really excited to try to something new and try something out. We'll
Yes.
still be doing the podcast for sure. This is just little short form content of pieces. Not necessarily TikToks, a little bit longer, but not as long as like a full length podcast episode. And as always, we have to shout out to our Patreon members. And if you would like to be shouted out at the end of the episode, check out our Patreon. $1 a month to get a shout out every episode when we record. So thank you so much to Sensei David, Homeboy James, Danny Boy, and our friend Manny. Thank you guys so much. Oh, and our buddy Ryan. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. It makes things easier for us, like helping us. All the money goes to like getting microphones and updating equipment and things like that. So yeah, please consider being a Patreon member. But you don't want to be a Patreon member, other thing you can do is subscribe to either our YouTube channel, or you can check out all the social medias down below and follow us and keep us on your feed. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time. I don't even know what we're talking about next time. Are
I
we
think
talking about Blue Velvet?
it's actually The Chase with Brando.
Ooh, that's one I haven't seen in a long time. Ooh, I'm excited for you to watch that one. That one's
I'm excited too.
that one's a secret little powerhouse of a movie. So we'll talk about that next time.